Hey guys, Chris here, and I'm a Ukrainian Canadian. Today is December 22nd, 2023, and let's get to the news happening in Ukraine, shall we? Before I begin, I just want to thank you all for those that came and showed up to my live stream on Tuesday. It was really fun, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm hoping also to make another live stream in the next few weeks, which is going to be likely in 2024. So, again, a huge thank you. Now let's start with excellent news today. So this feels kind of like Groundhog Day because on Monday I reported that the Ukrainian air defense, not the air defenses, but the Ukrainian forces managed to destroy two Su-34s through drone attacks. And today the Ukrainians were able to shut down three Su-34s over the region of Kherson. And what we know right now is that this most likely happened in Kherson because some pro-Russian Telegram channels have confirmed that, but also because there's some rumors that the Ukrainians have deployed Patriot systems somewhere in Kherson because they were anticipating the Russians to, again, utilize these jet fighters, these bombers, for another mission on the left bank. Again, the Ukrainians do have positions in the left bank of Kherson, and so the Russians right now are trying to dislodge these Ukrainian positions by firing gliding bombs. And the specific one is called the FAB 500, which have been pretty effective. And so the Ukrainians caught up to that, and they have managed to destroy three Su-34 bombers today, which is a devastating loss for the Russian Air Force. Again, combined, it's about $150 million worth of losses for the Russians today alone, just for these three jet fighters. And it's not like the Russians can mass produce them. I believe they had about 150 of them before they started the war in Ukraine, the massive scale war. So this obviously will reduce the amount of jet fighters they can fly. And this will obviously facilitate now the Ukraine operations in the left bank, as the Russians will obviously stop using them in the near future, especially in the southern region. One thing that we can mention is that the Russians do learn from their mistakes, and we've seen a decrease of them using jet fighters throughout the front line because they know that the Ukrainians have some of the best air defense systems right now. They still will fly some of them, but not as frequently as they would like to, which is going to facilitate Ukrainian operations in the left bank. Now, let's go to the other news, and more excellent news today is that Japan is going to send more US Patriot missiles, which is going to create a deeper pull for Ukraine air defenses. Again, Japan isn't going to directly provide them to Ukraine, but they're only going to send them to the United States, which then will create a bigger stockpile of Patriot missiles, and the United States can decide whether they want to send it to Ukraine or not. But this is still very good news, and it shows how Japan is now shifting slowly in taking sides rather than trying to be neutral, which is a position that Japan more or less has had since World War II. And it's kind of funny, when I look at the history, some of these, the most evil countries in World War II, Japan, Germany, Italy, have now become the strongest backers of democracy in the free world. We're looking at Germany, which I will get into in my next slide, which is providing, I think the second country that provides the most help to Ukraine in terms of financial and military assistance. Now you have Japan, you have also Italy, which sends once in a while some artillery systems, and the president also supports Ukraine. So it's funny how the original Axis of World War II that was defeated, as I mentioned, is now the strongest backer of democracy in the free world. And in the meantime, the Soviet Union and now the Russians that are so proud of their great patriotic war are now descending more and more towards a Nazi Germany society. So it's funny how the tables have turned, but again, there's a lot of work to do to defeat Russia. And it will really take many countries allied together to help Ukraine win this war against Russia. So this is another excellent update. And as of Germany, as I mentioned, they also confirmed a military assistance package today that will provide more defense capabilities for Ukraine. Again, the most important one is 3 Gepards that will be sent to Ukraine, ammunition for Leopard 2A6s, basically 30,000 round ammunition for self-propelled anti-aircraft guns, so for the Gepards, 2,500 155 millimeter shells. So overall, what is important is that The Ukrainians are receiving more Gepards. Again, we know that in the winter, the Russians are increasing the amount of Shahid drone attacks over Ukrainian cities, and the Gepards have proven themselves to be excellent at destroying them. And they're just excellent machines overall. They're cost effective compared to using more expensive missiles to shut down these Shahid drones. So a huge thank you to Germany and Japan and other countries that are still very, very strong with their military assistance to Ukraine. And I wanted to get into just some map updates. Just one from Avdiivka. Again, nothing really in the left bank, but as I mentioned, these 3 Su-34s that the Russians have lost most likely was in this region, as they were very likely, they likely departed from Crimea, one of the air bases in Crimea, to strike Ukrainian positions in the left bank. So this is what likely happened today. Now, in Avdiivka, there isn't much to report on. The Russians are slowly trying to advance. The only change that I can report on since my last video on Monday is you can see that the Russians have made small gains in the north of Krasnohorivka. Again, they've been gaining just small fields, but they're getting closer to villages and settlements. So the Ukrainians need to be able to deter them from getting too close. Again, we see that the Russians are trying to take Stepove when we're looking at the west front of Krasnohorivka, but in the last few weeks, they have not been able to enter Stepove. So the Russians are essentially, they're being held on these open fields. They can technically claim that they hold them, but they're just open targets. So the Ukrainians are doing excellent work at deterring the Russians from entering villages and settlements. And nothing to mention for the south and the center of Avdiivka. It's pretty much the same since my last update. Again, the Russians have increased their pressure in the Orikhiv axis, so the Ukrainians had this momentum up until September, and then this was reversed as the Russians moved more reserves, more troops, and they've started a small counterattack in this region. So you can see that the Russians are putting a lot of pressure on the Ukrainian positions in Robotine, but the Ukrainian forces are holding this village so far. And the same situation is ongoing in Bakhmut. The Russians have launched a huge offensive in Bakhmut as well, trying to retake the positions that were lost from the Ukrainian forces back in the summer. You can see that they're getting closer to Klishivka, and there's more gray areas close to Klishivka. So there's a lot of battles ongoing right now as the Russians are trying to push the Ukrainians out, because the Ukrainians are very, very close to Bakhmut, and Putin cannot allow the Russians to lose Bakhmut. So you can see that they have done some pushes in the north of the city and also in the south. So this is another front line that we need to keep an eye on for the next few weeks. Especially during the winter, Putin will not shy away from sending thousands of men, thousands of orcs to certain death if it's necessary. So that is another difficult front line for the Ukrainians they're holding so far. And nothing to report on the north. The Russians continue on their trying to push out the Ukrainians in the north, but that is not successful so far. And honestly, this hasn't changed from Kupiansk all the way up to Kremina. The front line has remained pretty much the same. Now, apart from all these news, there's another one that I want to mention. So Netherlands mentioned that they will be supplying Ukraine with 18 F-16s. The timeline is unknown yet, so I hope that this is going to be for Q1 of next year, so for 2024. So huge thank you to Netherlands. And the Biden administration signed a decree today to impose economic measures against foreign financial institutions that are helping Russia with the supply of military assets. So this is another excellent policy that was signed by Joe Biden, which will deter Russia from finding loopholes to basically resupply itself and rebuild its military. And I just wanted to finish off this video to send my condolences to the Czech people. Czechia yesterday had a major mass shooting in one of the universities in Prague, which killed, so a terrorist basically killed 14 students and injured 20, and this number unfortunately might go up in the next few days, but I just want to send my condolences to the Czech people. It's a very difficult time for them, and also let's not forget that the Czech people have been very strong Ukrainian allies for a very long time, so my prayers and thoughts to all of you, to my followers and the people of the Czech Republic. So this is the video for today. I hope you enjoy my updates. Please, if you enjoy my channel, subscribe to it, leave me a like, and leave me a comment about any of the topics that I covered today. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. Slava Ukraini!